Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to the NRW. I'm your host, Rob Medina, and I thank you all very much for joining me here today because today I'm going to be reviewing the movie Foreclosure. Now, this is a brand new B22 film that has, as of right now, no release date here just yet. But I was fortunate enough to get an opportunity to check out this film. This film is directed by Brett Bennett, but it's not written by him. It's actually written by a screenwriter by the name of David Wagner. So this is the second film that I've come across this year. And so far, there was only two films that I've come across where Brett directed a movie but did not write the film. And I can truthfully say that I did like the movie. I didn't love it. In fact, I'll be straightforward right now and just say that I just thought the movie was okay. And I'll get into the reasons as to why. But one thing I will point out is that I'm not going to get into any spoilers for this film at all because one, the film hasn't been released yet, and secondly, I think there are some things that are best left to be unsaid and for you to discover along the way as you watch the film, whenever that film does get released, that maybe your perception will change along the way as far as how you may feel about the film from when you first watched it to where it ends. Because that's kind of one of the issues that I did have with the movie, again, without getting into spoilers here. But I will say that although I did find some great qualities about the film, because the overall story in itself, which I'll just get into right now, basically follows a couple who were looking out to buy a new home. And it turns out that the house that they were looking into getting here is in a pretty well-off neighborhood, very beautiful looking home as well, too. And it seems like everybody in that neighborhood gets a ghost that is more or less assigned to them. That's actually one of the major pitches for people who are interested in buying the home, that if you buy this house, there's going to be a ghost assigned to you. And apparently it makes life much better for you. If I think it's the general consensus. And I thought that was kind of interesting. I thought it was weird at first, to be completely frank with you, but it seemed like it was an interesting approach, considering that a lot of people that are looking to buy a home in that neighborhood are buying the home in that particular neighborhood because they want to have a ghost assigned to them to, I guess, make their lives much better than they already are. So that was the initial introduction that we get of these two characters played by Samara Gonzalez along with Derek Ford, who play the two couple who are purchasing this home here. And then as the story progresses along the way, one of the major things that they were having to deal with is the fact that they have not seen their ghosts yet. In fact, one of their neighbors is visiting them and asking them, have you seen your ghost? And Samara's character, whose name escapes me right now, but she is basically saying, no, it's been a month and we have not seen our ghost yet. How long did it take for you to see your ghost? Like pretty much literally the next day when we moved in, the ghost showed up the following day. So, but she said, but don't worry about it. It's okay. It might take some time. Everyone is different, so on and so forth. So there's certainly some sort of concerns that one of the lead characters has here, where they're wondering why they're not seeing their ghost. Whereas her husband, played by Derek Ford, is kind of someone who is kind of mysterious in a lot of ways, where you notice that there's some things that he's kind of hiding. And as the story progresses along the way, without getting to spoilers here, you come to find out he has a pretty dark past where what he does involves pretty much cheating people out of their money, if you will. But you don't really know the whole story. You just know what's been through some sort of exposition along the way, where you realize that he may not be as good as he appears to be in a lot of ways. But at the same time, you also notice too that the two couples are not really in the best of terms with each other, even though they seem to be happy, but they're not entirely happy with each other to some degree, I would say. And then as the story progresses along the way, Derek's character, I meant to say, ends up missing. And then his wife has called the cops to do an investigation to find him, and they come to find out that they don't know where he's at. And there's this whole thing about how there's a ghost that's also involved in the mix as well too, that directly involves with the disappearance of Derek's character in the story, who plays the character of Ned. I just remember now. I'm terrible with names, so forgive me because I don't mean to become off as being dismissive in that respect. But it's essentially where the wife is trying to find out what happened to her husband. And again, without getting to spoilers here, we do come to find out what happens to him. And then we come to a closure to that relationship, and then the next step of their lives, if you will. And that's kind of the story right there in a nutshell. Here's what I'll say about the positive with this movie. The idea of the story where you get a couple who are moving in and are anticipating a ghost to be assigned to them, somehow I found that to be rather intriguing. But the thing about the story, which I'm kind of going into the mixed aspect of it here, is that there's really no reason as to why this neighborhood gets a ghost assigned to a home, where they're pretty much, the ghost is going to be there for the rest of the time. Like the family, whoever moves into those homes, stay there. So there's no explanation behind all that. Not that I'm saying that we need one, but I guess I wanted some more context behind as far as what the purpose of that particular side of the story is in terms of having the ghosts assigned to these respective homes. Secondly, when you get to know the couple, you understand that certain things that occur may have something to do with how the ghosts are assigned to them respectively here. So, but again, without a lot of information to kind of go off here, it's really hard to say. But I mean, the main focus is definitely the couple for sure, where you're learning more about their background and learning more about who they are as individuals, and then their hurdles they have to go through along the way. I will also point out too that although I did like the story in itself, I will also point out too that I did also like some of the actors as far as the performance are concerned. But one of the major issues that I had with the film, and I know I'm kind of going back and forth with my mixed and negative aspect of it here, but there are some great moments where the actors do give some strong performances. And one sense in particular, where Derek, who plays the character of Ned, actually delivers a really strong, somber, and emotional performance, which I thought he did really good in that one specific scene there. But prior to that, there were moments where I felt like there were certain scenes that kind of weren't edited that well when it came to where certain emotional context had occurred where the husband is mad for something or is annoyed, and then the way they was just spliced together just didn't come off all that well to me personally. So forgive me for being all over the place with this here, but it's because the thing is about the positive of this movie is that I just liked the approach that they were taking, but I wasn't all a big fan of the actual execution of the story idea in itself. It's not a bad film by any means. So I'm certainly trying not to give the impression that the movie's terrible. It isn't terrible by any means. Just that the execution of certain events that occur in the film just didn't pan out all that well for me. But there were moments where I did appreciate certain sequences in the film that came along the way, like with the introduction of the detective who comes here and is helping with the investigation and looking for the husband, and then also is fully aware of this whole ghost assignment, if you will, and even asked the wife, "Hey, have you seen your ghost? Maybe the guy that you saw that you believe is involved with your husband's disappearance, maybe your ghost." And she's like, "It's impossible." So it's like everyone in the area is fully aware of this whole ghost assignment, but no one seems to be troubled by that. And I'm just curious as far as how all that occurred in the first place. And I actually was more interested in that side of the story more so than, to be frank with you, than the actual couple in itself. Again, that's not to disregard with both Samara and what Derek were doing in the film, because I actually do think they did a pretty good job when it came to the performance, although I felt like certain things didn't work as well in certain sequences, but where some of the other sequences in the film did work out much better in terms of getting to know the couple to some degree. Which is another thing I want to point out too, is that when you get to the end of the film, without really spoiling anything here for anybody, there were certain emotional parts of that particular sequence where Derek's character Ned is talking to his wife that I thought was worked so well in that moment. But what we saw previously, I wish we'd have gotten a lot more out of that story for us to really feel that emotional depth, because I just thought the performance was good, but I didn't necessarily feel that emotional impact that I thought the performance certainly did deliver very well. So there was a lot of context missing for me leading up to that moment, because I didn't get that vibe at all between the couple there. Although you can tell they love each other, but there was certainly a wedge between them that you never really felt like they were actually close, but you knew that they were at some point in love with each other, which is a shame, because I believe both actors did a really good job in performing with what they were given here. But unfortunately, as far as like getting that real connection to them, I didn't really get that at all for when it came to learning about the characters along the way, in which you do learn a little bit more along the way, but it just didn't pan out all that well for me personally. But as far as some of the other aspects are concerned, this is a film that I could truthfully say that is definitely worth a watch. I would suggest people to check it out and obviously judge it for themselves, because although I will say that whenever it came to Brett directing other people's work that they have written, I don't feel like they were his best films. And I'm not saying that the writers don't have a good idea as far as what they were trying to go for, but it seems like the execution for some of these ideas just didn't really work all that well for me personally. I'm not really sure what the whole thing is as far as what the fine line is between following through what the writer wants to stick with and what Brett wants to follow through with here. But I will say that it's certainly something that I notice is a big distinct difference when it comes to when Brett is writing and directing his films. There's a huge difference when it comes to what his input is, as opposed to having someone else who's writing a script that he's directing for them. So, or directing the script, I should say. But there's a big distinct difference I noticed right away when it comes to his investment and his involvement to some degree. So, I'm not really sure what the whole thing turns out as far as what the agreements are, as far as what's going to be kept in and what's going to be kept out. But either way, I will say that I wasn't really bored with the film, because there were some moments I was kind of like getting a little bit of I was kind of dozing, and I wouldn't say dozing up, but I definitely felt like it wasn't really keeping my attention as much. And then when I had to go back and watch the film again, because there's certain things I did notice that I did miss out on. But going back to watch the film the second and third time around, I did notice a lot more great qualities that the film did have. But again, it happens in pockets, not in the entire film altogether. But when those moments where you have great character depth and great character performances and so on and so forth, they kind of come in, far in between, in my opinion, when it came to what really stuck out for me. I wouldn't say that the negatives outweighed the positives here for me. I just think it's an okay film. It's certainly not his Brett's best film, I would say. It's certainly not B-22's best films, in my opinion, but it's a film I think people may come to enjoy in some way or shape or form, in appreciating what everyone involved were able to deliver here. And it comes to the cinematography, the acting, the actual story in itself, even the editing, the music. I would think to some degree here is actually quite good in as well too, in certain sequences in the film. But overall, this is meant to be more like a thriller, ghostly story. But I never really felt the ghostly element. I just felt more of a missing element of the film that was trying to introduce something, but never actually fleshed out those details that made me feel like it could have been told better, if that makes any sense. So when the film does get released, I think you guys may know what I'm referring to here. I hope I did a good job in trying to explain all that without having to get into spoilers here. But those are my overall thoughts here on the film. And if, as far as my rating is concerned, again, I don't think it's the best films I've seen out of B-22 in their filmography, but it's, I'll say this right now. I've seen virtually every single film under B-22 in their filmography. And although I did say I didn't like one film, which was Operation Overlord, I go back and watch that movie. And as time has gone by, I actually grew to like the film a lot more and just enjoy it for what it is. And in this movie, I think there's certain great qualities about this film that I did really gravitate to, but it was just a lot missing for me to really truly enjoy to truly enjoy the film for what it could have been here. And unfortunately, it was just okay for me personally. So for me, as far as my rating is concerned, I say this film is worth a shot. And those are my thoughts on the film. Now, as of right now, as I said before, there is no release date for this film. I'm sure B-22 will announce when the film will be released. So I highly recommend you guys follow them on social media, on Instagram, Facebook, and on Twitter. And I'll have the links in the description down below so you can follow them on social media. And that we can be on the lookout for when this film will be released here. I will go out of my way to buy this film when it does get released, because I'm a big fan of B-22 films. So anything they release, I will be buying. So this will definitely be added onto my collection when it comes to B-22 productions here. But I think the film was okay. I think there are going to be some people who really will like the film. I think there'll be some people who may not like the film at all. And I think there'll be some people who will probably be in the same position as I am, where some things I like about it, some things I didn't like about it, and it was just okay for me personally. So I'm right in the middle, but it is definitely worth watching. I think you guys may find something out of it that you may come to enjoy, and hopefully you guys do. And if you guys do so, let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. And also, if you haven't done so already, subscribe to the NRW. Make sure you share, like the videos, hit the notification bell while you're down there, and also follow NRW on social media, on Instagram, New Release Wednesdays, on Facebook, Noah's Rule the World, and on Twitter at the NRW. And you can follow me on my social media accounts on Instagram and Twitter, Mr. Rob Medina, and on Facebook, simply just Rob Medina. And I have a show on the channel called You're So Cool with Rob Medina, and I have social media for the show as well. On Instagram, You're So Cool with Rob Medina, and on Twitter, I was gonna say Facebook, on Twitter, You're So Cool WRM. And that's gonna be it for the review, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Until next time, stay safe out there, and cheers.